as you probably are aware, many people are aware, there are now lots of emerging digital technologies in this space. But I think that one of the things that needs to be carefully considered is not creating a digital divide, which I think is something that has been brought up. We already have data divides, as it was, which is leading to biased data being collected, in the field. So when you move toward digital technologies, you really want to use that as a solution to bridge the gaps that traditional, more conventional approaches have created, and not further drive a further, divide. So that was probably the biggest consideration, is thinking in putting together the protocol for the Davos initiative, is how do we maximize that inclusivity? And consequently, we realize that everything has to pretty much be centered around the smartphone, because the smartphone is the most penetrating technology in the world. Right now, there's about 6.6 to 6.7 billion people in the world who actually have a smartphone. Over the next few years, that's projected to go and to become even higher numbers, well into the 7.2, 7.3 billion range. And so what we have to remember is that a smartphone is essentially a computer in every person's hand. It has multiple sensors. The average smartphone is believed to have about 27 or more sensors. And those are really data collection tools, if we think about that. So what we did with the Davos initiative is start to think about what can be done specific to the smartphone. We expanded that to include the tablet that can be used in an in-clinic setting. We recognize not everybody actually does have a smartphone, even though it's pretty penetrating. It's still not 100% penetration. So we've also wanted to bring in other options as well for the in-clinic opportunities. So we paired the two because a tablet is actually something that's pretty accessible as well, and many research settings have some access to broadband and internet connections. So that's sort of our starting point in terms of deciding on what technologies. And then once you select your technologies, that really defines sort of what kinds of applications you can start using. And one of the key concerns in thinking about applications is that they had to be both iOS and Android compatible in order, again, to broaden the reach as much as possible. And that would further then limit sort of what are the options that are out there, because they're not necessarily all iOS and Android compatible. And then you have to start thinking about the stimuli themselves, because the stimuli you have to think about from question by question, item by item. Is this relevant anywhere? So I always sort of try to look at this at each item and think, can someone in Malaysia, Tanzania, Panama, Cuba, India, etc., can anybody anywhere, if posed with this question, can they answer it? And when you start to do that exercise, it really narrows down what are the test stimuli you can even use. So that's sort of the process we've gone through in order to think about how do we use digital as a tool for inclusivity and try to minimize the possibility of perpetuating a digital divide.